Midwest Dogman Turf War. Dear Scary Stories NYC. First of all, I want to say thank you for the platform you provide for us to allow us to anonymously report our sightings and experiences. Some of us have to cope not only with how horrifying the circumstances were that we lived through, but we also have to keep it all inside. It's not something that we can feel comfortable talking about with most people. It's not something I want attached to my name. Yet, I feel infuriated that I should have to hide the fact that I was present in a location when something happened, just because that something that happened is not officially considered possible. In the case of what happened to me, I'm talking about the Dogman. Or maybe they were werewolves. What does it matter what I call them? Neither is considered real, and nobody's gonna believe me anyhow. This happened in 1999 in Edenville Township, west of Lake Sanford in Michigan. I was hiking around with a friend from college that we can call Jane. I suppose then by default I must be Tarzan. We were just walking through woods and camping when we knew the sun would be going down. There was no rhyme or reason to our vacation. We just chose an area it would be difficult for us to get lost in since we were both from Michigan and both avid nature lovers since a very young age. On top of that, Edenville Township isn't exactly the dark side of the moon. In fact, half the time I think we might have been camping on private property, but I wasn't sure then, and I'm even less sure now. I just know that nearly every day we would happen upon a road or other landmark, and we'd recalculate our location using our compasses and our old paper maps. It felt like we always had a rough idea of where we were, and we really didn't need much more than that, and a supply of food and water. Jane and I were only casual friends back in civilization, but when we would go camping, we had a much closer relationship. Like most guys the age I was back then, I didn't understand it, but I wasn't gonna question it, and I wasn't gonna complain. As long as we went back to being more distant when we got back to the human world, she would get very close to me out in the wild. So, one night we were asleep in our tent, and all hell broke loose outside. Generally Jane took the lead when there was a mystery, but the sounds coming from outside our tent on that night were not very easy to recognize or categorize. It sounded like hell itself had opened up onto the field we were camped in, and I'm not sure how else to describe or explain it. We were both terrified to look outside, but I could tell by the look on her face that I was going to have to be the one to open the flap and peek out of that tent. And so I did. And when I did, I saw that in fact hell had opened up onto the field outside our tent. I pulled my head back in and announced just that. Jane didn't appreciate me going poetic in that moment. She demanded a detailed description of what was happening. I told her that I saw werewolves battling other werewolves, and creatures that I could not name battling as well. She looked at me as though I were speaking Klingonese. Her annoyance at me grew until it was actually larger and stronger than her fear of whatever was happening outside. She crawled over to the tent flap to peek outside. I know what she saw. I'll tell you exactly what she saw. A battle, or skirmish in some conflict, was happening in that field. There were large, hairy, bipedal creatures racing around outside at speeds as fast as a large cat. These weren't cats, though. They looked more like thin, muscular bears, but they were far faster and more athletic than bears are. They were too wiry to be bears, although most of them seemed every inch as large. While most of those battling would seem to be more or less what you would call a werewolf, there were several variations of kinds, and there were also some that looked so different that I'm not 100% certain that they were dogmen or werewolves at all. One creature had a far larger forehead than any of the others. It almost reminded me of gray space aliens. Maybe that's a dogman of the future. Come back in a time machine, I don't know. There are also some creatures that in another context I might have viewed as Sasquatch. They were tall and strong-looking, with large human-type feet. When I raised my eyes to their heads, though, they had floppy dog ears and long snouts. Tell me what I'm supposed to call that. Jane and I debated whether it made any sense to stay in that tent in that moment, or if we should try to make a break for it. We both avoided traveling in the woods at night, but we had passed a road that led to a police station shortly before setting up camp. If we were going to make a break for it, we decided that would be the direction to run in. We got our boots on and got prepared to go, even as we continued to debate whether we should sit tight or risk running out into a dogman on dogman military-style conflict. I have to say, when you're in a state of panic, finding something to do can take your mind off of the fact that you might find your life ended at any given moment. We got prepared to go. We got our backpacks packed, and mainly the only thing we wouldn't be bringing with us would be the tent itself. Nervous about going, we both decided to catch our breath and get ready for the run of our lives. Our plan was to carry the backpacks until we reached the woodline, then risk stopping to put them on so that we could move faster from that point. We were giving each other a good luck hug in case that was the last conversation we ever had, and then something large and heavy fell on the tent and both of us, knocking the wind out of us completely. It took a few seconds for the creature who had fallen on us to right itself and allow us to begin to wheeze and gasp for air to get back inside our lungs. We had been bonked pretty hard, but there were no broken bones, and if you've ever had the wind knocked out of you, then you know how painful it can be to try to get the air back inside of yourself after it's exited. We were starting to breathe again, and still recovering from that terrible experience, when something started slicing the tent open from the top on down. It looked like a small dagger at first, but as the opening grew, I saw two glowing eyes looking in at us. That wasn't a dagger. It was a huge claw from one of those dogman creatures. Jane and I staggered out of the tent to witness chaos all around us. If you ever thought that ridding the world of weaponry would end war, then you should have seen what we saw. It was hand to hand or claw to teeth, maybe. There were passed out dogmen in every direction, with the rest dancing over the prone bodies at lightning speed, battling to the very last man. As we ran toward the part of the woods we needed to get to, it was a broken field run. We had to keep dodging left or running right to avoid creatures attacking each other, or else the unconscious creatures lying all around. I saw so many different variations on the same basic dog-headed human theme that I wondered who was battling who and what the fight was over. Could it be that multiple factions were engaged in this conflict? Could 3 or more different groupings of creatures be fighting over the same turf? I saw more than 4 different kinds of dogmen, so who knows how many armies there were. I saw wolf-headed bipedal dogmen. I saw large wolves that only stood up at certain times while fighting. I saw more than one with a long baboon-like snout but dog ears. I saw 4-legged fast-moving animals with canine bodies and horrific, near-human faces. I mean, they had dog ears. They weren't entirely human, but on the body of a dog, these were disturbing things to see. I guess I should be grateful I only had the moon lighting them. The less detail, the better, in my opinion. As Jane and I entered those woods, it got colder, and it got weirder. By the time we were halfway to our goal of that street that led to the police station, we could hear something loudly pursuing us. It was making a point of destroying as much of the forest as it could as it made its way closer to us. The thing's barks sounded more like screams, and those screams sounded like threats. As the dogman got closer behind us, his cries grew deafeningly loud. They literally hurt my ears, and I was a guy who liked loud concerts at the time. It was absolutely terrifying being pursued in that way. I mean, it was completely unnerving. The worst night of my life, and I once spent a night in a county jail. So we came to the road and almost got hit by a cop car. At least I did. I saw him, but my legs were like lead weights, and I found it too hard to reverse course and get out of his way in time. This forced the cop to swerve and almost get into an accident himself before he was able to stop the police vehicle. Wait, maybe he was a park ranger? Could that be? It's strange that I don't remember his uniform. I do remember he seemed Irish, and when we told him that there was a war between werewolves just a short walk into the woods, he told us that we had been seeing the wee folk and laughed. He started telling all these really bad, corny jokes that I can't remember. Like he said something like, "Do you know why they call them the wee folk?" We did not. Why? Because you only see them after you've had a wee drink. That sort of thing, not taking us seriously at all. We insisted we weren't drunk, and so he asked us to show him where this supposed battle between the dog-headed trolls was taking place. I thought about it. I mean, I did want to show him that we weren't drunk, and that we were telling the truth. But, on the other hand, I was tired, and I wondered if the officer or a ranger or whoever it was could give us a lift to a motel or something like that, which I vaguely remember that he did. So, I never went camping again, except in RVs and rented cabins. I only hike during the day now, and I'm inside somewhere when it's dark out. To be honest, most of the sun and exercise I get these days, I get in my local city park. There's never been a report of even one dogman in that park, let alone an entire Midwest Dogman turf war. Is it pronounced Edwin Nepomuceno, 'cause he's hotter than a jalapeno? Or is it said like Nepomuceno, excitement, like a Reno casino? Possibly he's Nepomuceno, distinguished, like an old quill penno. I better finish this rhyme before it's time for bed. Remember, it's always a win with Ed. Please join me in thanking Edwin well, however you say it correctly. Let's just thank him, okay? I know he told me I said it wrong the last time, but I still don't know the right way how to say it. I just know that Edwin N gets a lot of our perks, and if you are interested in helping us stay online in these increasingly dire times, then check out this important massage from Henry Lee Dogman. Wait, did that say massage? Take it away, Hank. Thanks, Biggie, and thanks to all of you for watching this far. If you liked it, please click like. If you'd like to see more of our work, please subscribe. And also click that bell icon if you'd like to be notified when we put out a new episode. To become an executive producer, you can donate to us through the thanks button under each of our videos or through our paypal.me/PeterBernard209 page. To receive cool perks like secret uncensored Dogman episodes far too wild to ever run on this channel, you can become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button, or join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. Joining either at the $3 a month level or above gets you access to our over 25 hours of secret uncensored Dogman stories available nowhere else. Do you have a scary story about Dogman or some other kind of high strangeness that happened to you? Let us know by emailing us at scarystoriesnyc@gmail.com or by leaving us a voicemail message at 804-LA-SCARY. You may need to call back on that one. It cuts off after, I think, 3 minutes. And if you don't want to do any of that stuff, thank you for simply watching to the end. Good night, and have a scary tomorrow.
Come back for more scary stories.